Welcome. In this explainer, we're going to dive deep, I mean really deep, into the world of water purification. Think of this as our quest to uncover the science behind every single clean drop you drink. And hey, it's also going to get you totally prepped for your exams. So here's the game plan. We're going to kick things off with some key terms, then get into why clean water is such a big deal. After that, we'll look at the actual methods for purifying it, see how whole cities pull it off, and wrap up with what we can do to help out. Okay, let's jump right in. Okay, first things first, we gotta speak the language of water, right? To really get this whole story, we need to know the key players, the main terms. Think of these 5 definitions as the foundation for everything that's coming up. So let's begin with the goal, the gold standard, pure water. What does that even mean? Well, it's actually pretty simple. It's just water that's totally clean. No dirt, no nasty stuff, nothing harmful in it at all. Right, so if that's pure water, how do we get it to be pure? That's where purification comes in. See, it's not a thing, it's an action. It's the whole process of stripping out the dirt and the germs to make water safe for us. Okay, next up is a term that's, well, a little less pleasant, but super important. Sewage. And what is it? It's all that dirty water and waste that goes down the drain from our houses, from schools, from buildings, and figuring out what to do with it, that's a massive piece of the clean water puzzle. And on the flip side of pure water, you've got, you guessed it, unpurified water. This is basically water as you'd find it out in nature, in its raw state, before we've done anything to clean it. And yeah, it's usually full of stuff you really don't want to be drinking. And for our last key term, we have stagnant water. Just picture a puddle that's been sitting there for a while, or a pond where the water isn't moving at all. Because it's not flowing, it becomes this perfect little nursery for germs and, things like mosquitoes. Not great. All right, so we've got the lingo down. Now we can get to the really big question. So what? Why does any of this matter? Let's dig into why clean water is, without a doubt, one of the most important things for life on this planet. This right here, this is the heart of it. I mean, think about it. We're mostly water. Our bodies need a constant, clean supply just to stay healthy. And when the water's dirty, well, it's not just that people get sick. It messes with animals, it messes with plants. It throws the whole system, the whole balance of nature completely out of whack. And it's not just about drinking water either. What about having fun? Like if you're going for a swim in a pool or a lake, you definitely want that water to be clean because polluted water is packed with invisible germs that can get you sick even if you don't swallow a drop. So it makes you wonder, does nature have its own purification system? And the answer is a big yes. It's wetlands. These places are amazing. They're basically Earth's natural water treatment plants, like giant living filters. Okay, so if these natural filters exist, why don't we just let them do the work? Well, the problem comes down to one word: scale. Wetlands are incredible, for sure, but they just can't keep up. There's no way they can clean the massive, and I mean massive, amount of water that all of our cities need every single day. Okay, so we've covered the why. Now it's time for the how. In this next part, we're going to open up the toolkit and look at the actual practical methods that are used to transform dirty water into water that's safe enough to drink. So, how do you get the heavy stuff out of the water, like mud and sand? Well, there are a couple of really simple but super effective tricks. First up is settling. It's exactly what it sounds like. You just let the water sit perfectly still and gravity does all the work, pulling the heavier dirt down to the bottom. Then, once everything has settled, you do what's called decanting. You just carefully, gently pour the clear water off the top, leaving all that gunk behind. It's a really clever 1-2 punch. But getting the dirt out is only half the battle, right? You've still got the invisible enemies, the germs. So how do we get rid of them? Well, there are 2 main strategies. The first one is simple: heat. Boiling water is pretty much the best way to kill off all those nasty bacteria. The second strategy uses chemicals, things like purification tablets you might take camping, or adding a tiny bit of chlorine to disinfect the water. Okay, so we've looked at the individual tools in the toolkit. Now, let's zoom way out. Let's see how our cities take these same ideas and blow them up to an enormous scale to provide clean water for thousands, even millions of people. So when water rolls into a big treatment plant, what's the very first thing that happens? It's called screening. And really, it's just a giant sieve. Big screens catch all the large stuff, leaves, branches, any trash that's in there. Then, way later in the process, after a bunch of other steps, the water gets to the final, supercritical stage. disinfection. This is where they add something like chlorine to zap any germs that made it through, making sure that water is totally safe. So after all that, how does this pristine, clean water actually get to us? Well, it's pumped out of the plant and sent on a journey through this huge, complicated web of pipes hidden underground, all so it can show up right at your faucet, exactly when you turn the handle. Okay, so the water's journey might finish at our kitchen sink, but you know what? Our job isn't done. Let's wrap up with what I think is the most important part of this whole story, what we need to do to stay safe and how we can protect this incredibly important resource. Now listen up, because this is crucial. You should never, ever drink straight from a dam or a river. I don't care if it looks crystal clear. Why? Because the most dangerous things are the ones you can't see. That water could be absolutely swimming with microscopic germs and parasites that can make you really, really sick with diseases like cholera. And this all leads to a really big idea. You always hear people say water is a scarce resource, and you might think, wait a minute, how? The planet is like mostly water. But here's the thing, almost all of that is salt water. Only a tiny, tiny percentage is fresh water we can actually use. And, as we've just learned, cleaning it up so it's safe to drink, that takes a ton of work, a ton of time, and a ton of money. So, what if you're ever in a situation where you're not sure if the water is safe? What can you do? Well, there's one simple, super powerful, and honestly life-saving trick that doesn't need any fancy chemicals or filters. Just boil it. Put it in a kettle or a pot, get it to a good rolling boil, and that'll kill off the nasty germs. And with that, our knowledge quest is complete. You now get the science behind this thing we can't live without. We've seen just how much incredible work goes into getting a simple glass of clean, safe water to your house. The main takeaway here is really simple. Clean water is precious. So, the final question I have isn't for me, it's for you. Now that you know all this, what are you going to do to protect it?